Hello, everybody, and surprise, quite frankly. Welcome to a pretty unplanned and semi-scripted episode of Perspective, and this one just so happens to be the second installment of my Thoughts from an Overthinker. I don't even know if I can call it a series, really, because there's only been one of them. But I did a little one of these back in actually 2022. Somehow this was actually omitted from the what season are we in right now? 3. Somehow, oh please let it be 3. Don't even know stuff for my own podcast because we've been pretty on and off with it recently, more so off than on. But I will get to that in just a little bit. But the first edition of this little, I'll just go ahead and say series, was November 15th of 2022. So it got completely skipped we are in season 3. Boom. Because Thomas made that thumbnail, and I'm picturing it in my head right now. So, Cole, you still got it. But this was completely omitted from the second season, and as an announcement, I suppose this episode will be the end of the third season. Honestly, kind of it just comes from me as a decision that with the inconsistencies, kind of, with posting and schedule-wise, school has been a pretty big thing for us these past few months. So we've been focusing on that a lot, but also just a lot of other life things, situations, and whatnot that have been going on. We just have not been posting as frequently as you guys probably know, just from seeing the channel or sticking around, seeing Instagram announcements that I post on there. Also, if you're not following that page, I highly encourage you to do so, because that's where most of, if not all of the announcements about the channel come from. So I can put that in the description of this audio recording, because as you guys can see or tell if you're watching this on YouTube, or rather listening to it, there's no camera for this one because it's just me again, and I didn't want to be a narcissist and just look at my face if I ever were to go back and listen to this episode again. It's funny, I actually thought about the other day when I see a lot of interviews, or I shouldn't say a lot, but I've seen a few interviews from pretty big actors and actresses talking about how they don't watch the movies that they're in, which I always think is kind of crazy, because some of these people either win Oscars for them, or they're just regarded as like the best films that they've made in their career. And some people are like, yeah, I've never watched it. But in no way am I comparing myself to a Hollywood actor or actress. I'm merely referring to the fact that even what I consider this to be my art and expression, even some artists sometimes don't even really go back and look at their own work. So, yeah, I'll probably make this, and then who knows? Maybe I'll go back and listen to it. Maybe I won't. But yes, this is Thoughts from an Overthinker, Volume 2. Only took me 3 minutes and 45 seconds to get to that point. But this comes at kind of an interesting time for me. I've mentioned several times throughout this channel, if you're new and this is the first episode that you happen to be listening to, welcome. I appreciate you being here and listening. If you are not new and this is you coming back to the channel and listening to another episode, Perspective was the start of a way for me to kind of, in a sense, self-therapy. That's not a sentence or a verb, but I'm going to use it in such because it's the power that I have over this dictatorship of a podcast that I possess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a slew of people, friends, family, that I can go and talk to about a bunch of stuff that's going on in life. But more often than not, I find that kind of just talking through it myself, and in this sense, even though I'm kind of going back on what I just said, going back and listening to it can not only honestly help and show me growth for myself as a person, but also just kind of verbalizing the things that are going on in my life, albeit great or bad. It's just nice to kind of put it out there and kind of absorb everything as I'm letting it go, so to speak. So that was my decision to make another one of these, and that's kind of my decision to end the season on this note. Hopefully after that we can get back to, when season 4 starts, a more consistent schedule with posting. Also, for people that have been watching for a while now, or at least the last few episodes, I can't make that promise because I've tried to in the past and I have not fulfilled it. So I shall say nothing on that. But that is my hope if it can't be a promise. Anyway, to kind of get started and jump into the subject matter that I wanted to talk about today, because actually Cole wrote notes, and I'm old-fashioned like that, and I just like having a piece of paper, you guys can hear that, in front of me to look at notes as opposed to my phone, which is also kind of dead, sitting on my night table, but we're not going to talk about that. But yes, the first kind of point that I wanted to talk about was, and I talked about it a little bit in the first installment. Currently, the home video on the podcast page on YouTube is Craig's episode. We had a little joke about that, either on him and Lucy's episode or just kind of off the scenes behind the camera. And I was like, yeah, I'll put yours on there, get a couple more views, and yeah, just go back and look and see how many more people watch it. Also, huge shout out to you guys. Ben's episode, our roommate and good friend, has over 1,000 views now, which is insane. I don't know if his mom just keeps watching it over and over again. I don't know if it's his siblings. I don't know if it's his friends, or if there's actually people out there that find Ben interesting. That's crazy. I never thought I'd say that. Obviously I'm joking, Ben, so if you're listening to this, just fun little shot towards you. I'll probably get a knock on the door as soon as this comes out and you listen to it. But oh wait, you won't be here. Ben will be gone till the end of the month. Eat it, Ben. You're not gonna be able to do anything about this. But yeah, so shout out to you guys. That's awesome. 1,000 views. Never thought I'd be saying that about a podcast channel that I put up on YouTube. So that's awesome, and I appreciate each and every one of you, or the 4 people that have watched it 7,000 times. But yeah, the first thing that I just wanted to highlight and talk about was that my life has been pretty inconsistent recently. I think the biggest identifier of that has been with the podcast, something that I'm really proud of and quite fond of. Just seemingly we haven't really been posting that much on it. Whether that be guest availability or just kind of lack of content, there haven't really been a whole lot of episodes produced in the past few months. And when I do, or when we do produce episodes, it's kind of just every few months or so. It used to be every week for the OGs that remember when this first started up. But since school kind of started taking over and a bunch of other things in life, we just haven't really been posting as much recently. One thing, and there's been a pattern on this channel that some people might have started picking up on, and those that know me personally can definitely vouch for in any conversation we have about it, is that I think I have shifted, well, not I think, I know I've shifted a lot more of what this podcast is to me, starting with, oh gosh, who was the first one? Was it Gracie? I can't remember. We've done trailers for seasons and things of that nature. I can't remember. I'm so sorry if it's somebody else. I think it was Gracie was the first trailer that we did, or like, well, we did one with Callie, but the first larger production one, I guess, if that makes sense, that we produced was Gracie's trailer. And Still one of my favorites to this day. The one that we released with Craig and Lucy on YouTube, I think was definitely a lot more cinematic and was more of an evolution of the Gracie one. But I think just kind of the sentimental value behind Gracie's, not that Craig and Lucy's wasn't sentimental. Damn, I feel like I'm stepping on eggshells here. But yeah, I don't know. I think the moral of what I was trying to get to behind that was I've definitely shifted a lot more of less the conversations and things to more artistic pieces of trailers and short films and things like that. I love shooting them for future guests and reference. If you are ever down to do something like that, or if you're crazy enough to accept me wanting to do that, just know that it's something that I take great pride in and I value a lot. Obviously, I always try to put people in a very positive light. Sometimes maybe the messages that are conveyed in those are a little bit more serious. But yeah, I always love working with whoever we can. Craig, Lucy, Gracie, Allie, Morgan. I'm trying to think who else has been in Ben, I'm sure eventually at some point. And whoever going down the road. That's just my big thing right now. I'm big into filmmaking, big into cinematography. Sound is the one thing I'm working on. If I can get that industry is cooked, I have it after that. And yeah, so I won't need this anymore because it'll be extremely famous. But yeah, that just kind of demonstrates somewhat the inconsistencies we've had with posting because it's been a little bit more of a shift in artistic standpoint, at least from my mindset. And I'm not that I would be ashamed of it or anything, but it's just kind of something that I've leaned more towards and I've had a lot more fun doing. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and hopefully I can produce a lot more in the coming months. But channel aside, and not so much specifically focused on the content that comes from this channel and that we produce for it. Just life in general. A lot of things have just kind of been inconsistent. And that's not something that I say in terms of inconsistency isn't always negative. I think it has a lot of negative connotations to it, for the most part. Depending on the context that it's in, inconsistency can also be a good thing. And in this sense, it kind of goes both ways. I'm writing something on my piece of paper, so if it sounds like I'm speaking nonsense, that's why. In this sense, there have been a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, there have been a few people that have left my life, there have been a few people that have been introduced to my life, and for better or worse, those decisions just happen to happen, and life will take its course, and ultimately I will be able to determine how well that worked out for me. But just growing older, kind of experiencing a lot more as an adult, these things just kind of happen, and you just kind of have to take them as they come. Sometimes it can be rough, take a while to process. Other times it's something good and something that's been needed and had to happen. So, but that's just something that I've noticed a lot personally. I just wanted to throw that out there and kind of make that the starting point for hopefully not a very lengthy discussion. I'm not sure how many people are going to enjoy hearing me talk for whatever indisposed amount of time. It's probably the wrong word. Trying to sound smart, might not. But yeah, so inconsistency is kind of the first topic of conversation. And you might see that a little bit through the other topics that I talk about here, but that's just kind of the main premise and Kickstarter for the rest of this conversation. The big thing that's happening to me specifically is Saturday the 11th, I am graduating from college. And that's a very bittersweet thing for me to say. I've enjoyed a lot of what college has brought me, a lot of the people I've met, a lot of the experiences and just different points of life that I've been through. But I don't know anybody that's graduated college listening to this or anybody still in college. I feel like I've missed out on a lot as well. For the greater part of the beginning of college, I was somewhat secluded and kept to my own. I didn't really go out as much as I do now. I was still just kind of, I guess, adjusting for a while, and it took me a long time to live on my own, eat on my own, make my own decisions, and kind of just fully understand what being an adult meant. Because coming into college at 17 and now being 22, it was one big learning process for me. And I think, honestly, only in around 2022 and when this podcast started was when I really started to kind of dip my toes in the water and start to experience a lot more, which I'm definitely grateful for. And it's brought me a lot of great people. Some of you are listening to the podcast right now, so I won't name names, but I appreciate each and every one of you. But yeah, I'm graduating on Saturday. It's an interesting conversation. I had a talk about this same thing to my mom about a week or two ago. I think another thing about graduating from college that's kind of brought me fear in a sense is just kind of, I think that's the real bridge between you're a kid in some senses and you're an adult, that you get to make your own decisions, but also you have somewhat of your own freedoms and you get to go do things and have the time of your life and spend weekends and nights out drinking, having fun, just doing things with your friends. Drinking is not, that's not, you guys know what I mean. Mom and dad, like, all right, calm down. I'm not doing that all the time, but it's a big thing. It's a big thing out here in Charlotte, so, at least with the people that I hang out with. But, it's just kind of a bridge between being a kid, growing up, and then entering the real adult world. You have to get a big boy job, buckle down, start thinking about your future if you hadn't already, and you might already be in your future. But the one thing, or one of the things that I've kind of come to realize in these past few months, especially leading up to the end of college, is that I think I've been focusing a lot on the macro perspective on how my life is going as opposed to the micro perspective. And what I mean by that is I think I've been focusing a lot on questions revolving who am I, what am I doing, what's my place in all of this that's around me. And I think I need to start focusing more, and I employ a lot of other people to do this as well, if you don't already, but to look at it more from the standpoint of taking each day as it comes and enjoying those days. Because for me, at least, the past, honestly, maybe even like year or maybe more, have all just kind of been a blur to me. It feels like every day just goes by like so quick, and like I wake up the next day and like I can borderline barely even remember like what happened the days before or like within the past week. And it's honestly kind of sad because I feel like just yesterday was me starting my senior year in college, and now I'm about to be leaving it all the same. So my best advice to anybody listening to this, if you need to hear it, or just if I do at some point down the road, is to take every day and treat it as a gift and as a memory. I don't, going forward, want to look at, in retrospect, a lot of the days and experiences I have with regret and fear and anxiety. I'd rather look at them in the moment and say that I'm enjoying it myself, and I think ultimately it'll work out for the best, and I'm going to become a better person because of it. So that's how I've been looking at it, more from a macro than a micro perspective. Like I said, I think that's been a big thing for me recently. The most recent video that I put out on YouTube, if you guys hadn't seen it, called Who Are You?, that kind of demonstrated that a little bit. I just talked about who you are in public and who you are behind closed doors. So I think that's another big thing and a big theme that we've talked about constantly and consistently to go against the inconsistencies. See, I kind of know what I'm doing. About and now I don't know what I'm doing because I just completely forgot what I was talking about. But yeah, so that's just definitely something to consider. And I was doing so well too. I hadn't really stumbled that much. I hadn't really mumbled or anything. And then I just like, wow. Can you guys tell the rust? I'm just like the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. I'm like, I need an oil can. But yeah, so graduation, big thing for me. Definitely looking forward to it. My mom's gonna cry, not from me graduating, but just because she doesn't have to say that I'm in college anymore, because I took a year longer to graduate than I was supposed to. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, just kind of a couple pivoting from graduation and the emotional aspect of that. Just a couple of life stories and experiences I wanted to share with you guys that I think are really cool, and there might be some lessons here and there regarding certain things. I think I talked about it vaguely on Craig and Lucy's episode. I don't know if I went super in depth on it. If I did and I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But I don't remember having a lengthy discussion on it, so I'm just going to bring it back up really quickly. In November of last year, November of 23, I was diagnosed with celiac disease. I had been feeling like crap for many months leading up to November, and when I heard that I had to get tested and have an endoscopy and blood work drawn and the whole kit and caboodle on getting my diagnosis of celiac disease, they told me that I had to keep eating gluten, which, for those of you that don't know what celiac disease is, my body cannot break down gluten very well, if at all. So gluten is a big no for me, and I can no longer eat it as of November. And I haven't, or at least I have tried not to. But they told me I needed to continue to eat gluten for a whole month before my endoscopy, when that was the end-all be-all, and they gave me my true diagnosis of having celiac. But yeah, my life and kind of energy sucked for a very long time. My symptoms of celiac revolve around, I just feel tired all the time. I get really hot. My eyes are very like dim and like more closed. Again, kind of piggybacking off of the tired aspect of it. Literally, I think just a week into me eating gluten-free, I noticed that like when I woke up in the morning, I was like beaming, like my eyes were bright open or open wide. And it was just like crazy how immediately like it had an effect on me. But yeah, so that's kind of been a big thing that's been going on for me. Not really as big a hiccup as some people might look at it as. It's definitely inconvenient, I won't lie. There's definitely a lot of social situations where saying, sir, I can't have gluten is not very beneficial for me. So, yeah, there's that. The jokes roll in, but I can take them, so anybody joking about me not eating gluten, I think I joke more myself that I can't have it than anybody else. So at least I can make fun of myself for it. But eating gluten or rather not eating gluten for me is kind of the same as I'm not insecure about my height until a guy that's just tall and has nothing else going for him is extremely attractive. I'm not self-conscious about my ability to not eat gluten until my work caters Dunkin' Donuts or Chick-fil-A and I can't have any of it. So that's been a big thing going on for me. It's definitely put a lot of other things into perspective. I've started to get a lot healthier, and that's paid off really well for me. And I've also just been a lot more conscientious of what I eat. I've kind of been bred for this already because my little sister Liv, who's been on the podcast before, hi Liv, has had celiac since she was in second grade, I think. Liv, you can correct me on that if you listen to this. It's been a very long time. She was very young when she was diagnosed, but I had a bout where I ate gluten-free for a while, and I went back to eating gluten, and then now I'm permanently back to not eating gluten. So, go celiac disease. But another big thing that happened recently for me was I went to a concert of a band that I'm sure we've talked about on here before. If we haven't, that's really interesting because they're a band that means a lot to me. And I know that for some people, that's not a very popular thing to say because they could be looked at as kind of cringe or their music is weird. And a lot of people just can't really get behind that. I don't care because I love them. But AJR is the band that I went to go see in concert. And it was nothing short of fantastic. They never fail to put on a show. I saw them in 17, 18 for their first like major album, The Click. They had another album come out before that, but talking to some of my friends, nobody cares about that, and it's not as well recognized. Sorry, AJR members that are not going to listen to this episode. But not some of their best work, in my opinion. But from The Click thereon, I have fallen in love with the band, and I think their music speaks a lot to me and means a lot to me. They talk a lot about kind of growing up and dealing with life and the many challenges that it throws in your direction. Kind of an interesting take on music because a lot of the stuff that they talk about and their more recent album that came out, which I went to go see them in concert for, was The Maybe Man. And almost the entire album is like really sad. A lot of the messages that they talk about are just, I wonder what would have happened if I did this. Maybe I'll do this, but I'm not going to because of this. Just the whole theme of the album revolved around kind of uncertainty. And I think that that related a lot to my life and with a lot of the other albums and music and movies and things that we've talked about in the past, because rest in peace to Music Movie Mondays. Things always seem to come in my life at very significant times. And I think Maybe Man came at a time where, like I said, I'm graduating college, I'm growing older, I'm realizing a lot more stuff about myself. It just came at a very crucial point in my path, and I think that was really cool and interesting. So going to see them perform these songs that mean so much to me in person really just kind of meant the world to me, and it was awesome. The way they do their visuals and everything is just spectacular. So can't wait to go see them again whenever that may be. But yeah, I don't go to many concerts. That was only the fourth, I think, concert, fourth or fifth, that I've been to. I've seen them twice. I've seen John Bellion twice. And I've seen Taylor Swift was actually my first concert, funny as it is. Me and Grace having a conversation about that like 4 or 5 episodes ago now, and me kind of debating her on how good Taylor Swift actually is. But yes, that was my first concert in like 2014 or something, or whenever that was. Yeah, I don't go to concerts much for somebody that loves music, and a lot of my life has to do with music. But it's also to do with the fact that concerts are expensive, and I'm broke, so not literally, but yeah, some people, I don't know, they just be charging an arm and a leg for concert tickets. I don't know why. I saw a video from years and years and years ago about Kurt Cobain was appalled that it was Madonna or somebody was charging like $50 for a ticket. Yeah, $50 might get you like a t-shirt or a drink at a concert nowadays. The tickets themselves are like $200+ if you want to get good seats, even more for huge artists. AJR is pretty big, but nosebleeds for them were like $50 to $60, so it was still pretty reasonable, which was why I was lucky and able enough to go and see them. But yeah, so that concert was fantastic, and it definitely helped me visualize and hear a lot of the things going on in my life. So it was pretty cool for them to sing and talk about a lot of the same things that I'm going through. A random point on this piece of paper that I wrote down, but hopefully you guys can think this is funny. I don't know why this is a thing that just kind of occurred to me recently, but I think it's hilarious, and I've talked to some people about it, and they also think it's somewhat hilarious. I've noticed something about myself when I talk to people, when I'm having like one-on-one conversations with a person. I don't tend to look them in the eyes that much. I don't not look at their face. Like I know some people just make no face or eye contact at all. But whenever I'm talking to somebody, I usually look at like their mouth, like in their teeth when they're speaking, and not ever their eyes, which is kind of like the point. You're supposed to make eye contact when you're speaking to somebody. It's kind of a sign of respect and just a showing that you're interested in what they're talking about. But recently, and I told you this is weird, I don't know why, I've started to like look more at people's eyes when I'm talking to them. Game changer. Like if nobody else does that, or if there's some sort of, if you're weird and socially inept like I am, look into people's eyes when you're talking to them. It's really cool, especially for people that just have like beautiful eyes. Like my friends that I've talked to and now have like I guess officially met for the first time because I actually started like looking them in the eyes. Beautiful eyes. Just it's crazy how much I get lost when I'm just talking to these people. I'm not even people I'm interested in per se. It's just like, wow, I've just been opened to something that I've just never considered before, which everybody else does, and I never have. But yeah, it's something that I've kind of been doing a lot more recently. Super dope. Encourage other people to do it. And that's all I have on that, because that was weird, and I'm sure a lot of you guys already do that, but hey, that's what this is. I'm weird. I talk about weird stuff. So you're here. If you're still here, hey, what's up? If you're not, that makes sense because I just talked about, hey, I started looking at people in the eyes when I talk to them now. Maybe I lost you. Who knows? Kind of just to, I don't say wrap things up. We're already 30 minutes into this now. Like I said, I didn't want to make this a super long conversation, but just my plans for the podcast in the future. Post-graduation, it's going to be a little bit more interesting. I'm going to be moving back home sometime in July, maybe June, most likely July. But when I'm back home, it's definitely going to be a lot more interesting conducting the podcast, should that be a thing that I'm still pursuing. I hope that it is. I love doing it. I love talking. I love talking to you guys and a lot of other people that are strangers at the time, but can end up becoming really good friends of mine. So definitely will be interesting to see where the podcast goes after graduation. So that'll be interesting to see when I get to that point. I think it'll be good in the sense of, I think now being where I am and where I'm located, I think it's a lot easier in some ways and access to talk to a lot of you guys. And I think that kind of being away from it in a way will kind of open the door for more opportunities for us to meet back up, reminisce, talk about things that we might have missed, as opposed to being a part of it a lot and already knowing a lot about what other people are going through and dealing with. So maybe me moving away can be a good thing. I don't know. Like I said, that'll have to be something that I discover when the time comes. But for right now, that is my plan for it. Trying to think. That's all the main bases that I wanted to cover. I was trying to think if there were any closing thoughts or remarks that I wanted to make. It's funny, for a guy that talks so much, now I'm coming up empty because I haven't again, no one of these in a really long time. So it's a lot easier when you have a co-host and other people sitting on the couch that you guys can kind of just piggyback off of one another. But when you're doing it yourself, it's not as easy as it sounds sometimes. I will, however, make a little bit of a shout out. Admittedly, because I'm a man of truth and honesty, I'm not caught up, which I know is funny because even my own family members aren't caught up on my podcast, which I think is hilarious. And I'm not actually like angry at any of them because I understand that our episodes sometimes are very long and people don't really have time for it, which is why I'm making this one short as well. So maybe more people can listen to it. But I'm not caught up on this podcast, but there's a podcast that I have listened to the first episode, at least the first episode, because I think there's 5 out now, so I still have time on my hands, and her episodes are a lot shorter. There's a podcast called CC's from CC, which is kind of what this podcast is, but from a female perspective or a woman's perspective. And I think maybe if any of you guys are interested in that, I think it's really cool and fun and unique to learn from 2 different angles or perspectives, if you will. Everybody shut off everything that they're using to listen to on this right now, but that's okay. But yeah, CC's from CC. If I can find it, or if I have the ability to, I will put the link in however this is going to be distributed. But definitely go listen to her take on everything that she has going on in life for her. She's also an actor and a singer, so fantastic. Very encapsulating and grabbed my attention, as you guys can imagine. Callie, that's her name. I don't know why that took me so long, but hence the C in the name. But yeah, go listen to Callie's podcast. Highly encourage it. Hopefully you guys like it and get enjoyment out of it as I did. But yeah, that was just kind of the last thing I had. Slight little shout out to her and the work that she does and what she provides for the viewing and listening public. Same as myself. But hopefully I can do a third one of these. Another thing I forgot to mention, AJR has 3 songs, Turning Out Part 2, and Turning Out Part 3. Hopefully, Thoughts from an Overthinker can be somewhat of a similar trend. This one has talked a little bit more about my state in life currently and things that I've gone through. The first one definitely was talking a lot more about, I don't know, maybe some more negative things that were going on with me at the time, but this one has kind of shown maybe a little bit more growth and just kind of where I am now as a person, and that's what all 3 turning outs did for AJR, so hopefully this can have a similar effect as their songs did. But for those of you still here, I appreciate you guys for listening. For those of you that left 20 minutes ago when they saw this wasn't going anywhere, appreciate you for listening as long as you did, even if you came back and just wanted to finish the episode out. But yeah, with everything said, and with season 4 on the horizon for whenever that comes out, I appreciate you guys, and I know it's a broken record, and I don't care because I'm never going to apologize for thanking you guys for allowing me to have this platform and talk about these kinds of things as much as I do. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for any support, kind words, and those of you that actively listen to these episodes and give me feedback and tell me things that you want to hear about, things that you don't want to hear about, and all of those of you that are excited and want to be on these episodes with us. But yeah, with all of that being said, can't wait to see you guys in season 4. And this is Cole signing off for season 3 of Perspective. See you guys soon.